welcome to Beacon of Creation, a weekly podcast on game design through the lens of Magic the Gathering. I'm Tim.
And I'm Bass.
We got you back.
Yes.
Across the Atlantic. We sound the horn of Gondor when you're on here for Lord of the Rings, yeah.
That's it. You send me a message, the beacons are lit.
That's true, yeah. That's what I should have just said. I should have just said that. All right. But we're doing another design crossover this week. These apps are not quite like trying to do full like universes beyond thing, though we might get into a little bit of that. This is a little bit more about learning the rules for a game, getting the kind of rundown as a listener, getting kind of rundown of the game, and then like a little bit of how we could use some of that technology in Magic, how we could steal some of those lessons.
Well, I listened to the Wingspan one. I thought, oh, that's actually kind of, I like that. Looking at Wingspan's like mechanics and themes, because obviously with these board games and these other games, the themes determine some of the rules, unless they're very abstract. So they have some sort of flavor thing that has been turned into a game mechanic, and that's interesting for Magic, because how would Magic maybe approach the same material? Or is there a mechanic that has been developed this way? Could that then work in Magic somehow or something? I thought with Wingspan, which is a very different game to Magic. Yeah. Like there's no conflict in Wingspan. I think that's really interesting. And with Transformers, Wizards made their TCG of it, and it's a dueling combat card game, but it's very, very different to Magic.
Whereas Wingspan is more about further into the casting spells on your turn and having fun. Transformers in the opposite direction, where it's even more about combat than Magic. Is that right?
Yeah, it's literally just a fighty machine.
Yeah, you were saying there were 5 sets of Transformers. Is that right?
Sadly, yeah, they released only 5 sets. The pandemic delayed the last set a month, and then they out of nowhere cancelled the game.
Yeah.
The game was clear. Like, it is so obvious that the people making it, because Kenneth Nagel, I think, was the head designer of the game, and Mark Rosewater was involved in some of the design at the beginning. Wizards Magic guys built this game. What's so amazing about it is that they knew what Magic became, so they looked at this and went, can we build a game like that, knowing in advance where we're going, and slow roll all the mechanics and elements to it, and make sure that we don't overload it and build it. And you can tell they were building the game up to last a very long time. And some major characters didn't make it into the game because they waited. Soundwave is one of the most iconic characters in the game. He showed up, but he showed up in set 3.
Oh, okay.
Because he had mechanical elements that they were saving for a set. I don't know what Wave 6 would have been, but knowing how far ahead Wizards works, I wouldn't be surprised if there were 2 to 3 sets. They were doing 3 sets a year. I wouldn't be surprised if there was about 2 or 3 sets ready to go in Wizards when it got cancelled.
That is kind of a funny thing, like how often you release sets and like what kind of adoption you need to keep those sets going. If it's a game that I'm only going to play sometimes, I kind of want 1 set a year, like once in a while, I got to jump back in and get way into it for a month and then get back out.
Well, the card sets were very small.
Oh, okay.
You didn't actually need a lot of cards.
All right. Well, let's get some of the basics here. Do I have a hand of cards? Do I have a commander? What are we doing?
So here's you get both. The aim of the game is you each have a team of robots. You win when you knock out your opponent's team.
Oh, okay. So am I like tracking damage on robots and stuff like that?
Yeah, every Transformer is a double-sized card. So they're big cards, right? They're the size of 2 cards. And when you bought Booster, the boosters were big boosters. They would have some battle cards in them, which are regular-sized cards, and then one big Transformer card in it.
Wait, so these are big packs? These are like physically large packs? Or
physically large packs. Literally, the oversized commanders?
Yeah,
that's how big they were.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it was really fun. So you had a team of robots each. They were all double-sided. So one side is the robot, one side is the car, the truck, the plane, the helicopter, whatever they turn into, the tank. Okay. You had 25 points to spend on your Transformers. So every Transformer had on the bottom right a series of stars.
Oh.
And what was interesting was if a Transformer cost 13 or more stars, you couldn't have 2 of them on your team. So they could be developed in such a way that, say, two Transformers that cost 13 each were really powerful and would be broken together, but you can't put them together, right? So there was a 13-star Optimus Prime, there's a 13-star Megatron, you can't put them together.
Okay.
You had Transformers range from the lowest, I think, was 6 stars to 13 in the first set. That was the sort of bandwidth. Most decks were 3 or 4 characters, but some decks would be 2 and some decks might be 5. Okay, they had 5 cost cards, yeah. And so they wanted teams of different sizes, so you could literally go wide or go tall, and you just started with them in play. You didn't have to draw them. There's no mana, there's nothing like that. You just start with your robots in play. Done.
Okay.
And you had a deck of 40 battle cards. Battle cards there were 2 card types. There were actions and upgrades. Actions were like sorceries, instants. You play them, they go. Upgrades were permanents. You would attach it to one of your Transformers. Every Transformer could have 3 upgrades, but they could have only one of each type. So there was weapons, utilities, and armor. So, right? So you could give one Transformer a weapon, an armor, and a utility, but you couldn't give them 2 weapons. Some Transformers said, hey, I can have 2 weapons, right?
Oh, of course, yeah. Every time you set up a roll, you can break that roll.
Exactly.
Before we go too much further, I want to kind of wrap my mind around this. So you got 25 stars worth of Transformers.
Mm-hmm.
Is a star roughly a point of health? Or
no?
What kind of numbers are we talking about?
So, okay, here's a 7-cost Transformer called Barrage. He's an Insecticon. He has 3 attack, 11 health, and 2 defense.
Okay.
So attack is the amount of damage they do when they attack. Defense is how much damage they block, and then health is how much damage they can take before they get knocked out. So he's 3, 11, 2 for 7. Whereas, say, a bigger one, like there's a 10-cost Bumblebee who's 4, 15, and 1.
So I might have like 40 health between my robots, maybe? Something like that?
Yes, something like that. It was about that, 40, 50 health, something like that. There were some Transformers who might have a lot more health, but they'd have lower stats. But health absolutely was the biggest, most important stat on a bot when they were doing star costs. So, like, if you looked at the top level decks, like if someone didn't have a lot of health, it was actually a real problem. Defense also was very low. I think the highest defense in the game is 4. But the highest attack in the game is like 8 or 10.
So just on a base level, before we get too much deeper, if I have 3 attack and you have 2 armor, so there's like a basic attack I can do without any battle cards?
You don't need battle cards to attack.
Okay. But it's going to be hard for me to deal damage because I only deal 3 damage and they have 2 armor, so it's going to take me a lot of hits.
It's not.
It's
not. This game is really fast. It's really fast. But yeah, attack is often about 2 or 3 points higher than defense, typically. Here's how your turn works. You start off with all your Transformers in front of you. Some of you is going to go first. Your starting hand is 3 cards. That's it.
3 battle cards, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So your deck is just battle cards. That's it. On your turn, you get to play 2 cards, 1 action and 1 upgrade.
Oh. Huh.
So there's no resources. You can just play 1 action, 1 upgrade. So your deck wants to be 50-50.
Oh, okay.
20 actions, 20 upgrades. You have 1 or more depending on the characters you've created.
This guy really cares about upgrades, so I'm going to stack my deck with upgrades,
Exactly. You might do that, but by and large, you want to be able to play 2 cards a turn, right? So you have 3 cards to start with. You draw 1 card a turn. You can play 1 action, 1 upgrade. You can play them in any order. There are cards that will say things like play an action this turn, play another upgrade this turn. So there are cards that will let you break that rule. Once you're done, you can transform one of your Transformers. They all start in their alt mode, so their vehicle or whatever it is that they start in.
Okay, like a truck.
Yeah, and you can transform one of them into their robot form. So there is like a timer on when you can turn all your guys into bot mode, and so there's power discrepancy between the 2 sides and things like that. Once you've transformed someone, you've played your cards, you then have to attack.
Okay.
So before I get to combat, anything you want to go through with
Well, I'm just reviewing what we're talking about here. So it
Yeah.
sounds like I have 4 things that I'm basically doing all. I don't have to do all 4, but I basically will do all 4 of these each turn.
You have to attack every turn.
Okay, well that one's mandatory. So I'm going to play. I'm probably going to in a turn play an action, play an upgrade, transform one of my cards, and attack with a guy.
Yeah. You don't have to attack with anyone that you played a card onto or transformed. You can attack with any of them. But typically, you will often like play a weapon on someone and transform them and attack with them.
How do you track which of those you've already done? You're going to remember that?
Which one's attacked?
Or like, did I already play my action like a land drop kind of thing? Did I do my land drop?
So because you do it before you attack, literally all you're doing on your turn is playing 2 cards, transforming one, and then attacking. It's very quick. You really don't forget if you've played something.
Okay.
Because your opponent, there's no cards that your opponent can play during yours. There's no instance.
Okay.
The complexity of the game is in the battle. It's not in this other stuff.
The minimum size of a turn is like maybe a little higher than Magic because I'm probably doing all 4 of these things every turn or close to all 4 of these things.
Yeah.
But the maximum size of a turn is much lower because I am only doing 4 things.
Yeah, and it has a nice pace to it, the game.
Fair enough.
So once you've done that, you now attack, right? When you attack, you pick one of your untapped characters to attack.
Hell yeah, we got tapping. Love it.
And then you tap them. That's it.
Love it.
They tap and they attack. You can attack anyone on the opponent's team that you want, but you must attack tapped characters before you attack untapped characters.
Okay.
So say I've got Bumblebee, and I attack with Bumblebee, and you've got, and this is the first turn of the game, and I go, I'm going to use Bumblebee, and I'm going to attack Neilnose. I can attack him, or I could attack Skydive, or I could attack Grimlock. I can attack whoever I want. On your turn, you have to attack Bumblebee. Because he's tapped. So this creates a sequencing element to the game where you start thinking about, okay, I attack him, he has to attack me, and you're trying to work out who's going to get attacked by whom and when. You then flip the top 2 cards of your deck. And this is
what?
Yeah, this is where Transformers gets really interesting. Every battle card in your deck is not just an action or an upgrade. On the top right-hand side, there is a little bar with colored pips in it, and that tells you what it does during a battle.
So it's like a die roll, but it's on the cards rather than... Okay.
Exactly. Those little battle icons do nothing when you're playing cards. They only matter during battle. So if the card is a really strong card, like it's a really good action, it has really bad battle icons. But if it has really good battle icons, then it's a very weak action to play. In the first set, they had 3 colors. They had orange, blue, and white.
Okay.
Orange is +1 attack. Blue is +1 defense.
Okay.
And white, the first time you flip white, it doesn't trigger any other time, but the first time you flip white, you get 2 more cards.
You just draw 2 cards?
You flip 2 more cards.
Oh, you flipped. Oh, you explode. Okay.
Yeah. You go off, right? So you get like this big crit moment. So you can flip up to 4 cards.
Just to try to digest that a little bit.
Yeah.
In addition to picking the cards that I think are well suited for my 2 or 3 or 4 robots, I'm also looking at those cards and what their is it battle action? Is that what it's called? Battle icons. Battle icon. It's the mixture of battle icons that I want most. So I might have cards that are like, overall, the text on the card says, I'm good at attacking, but the battle icon says defense. And I decide, I want more defense in my deck because I think that I can build an engine and get over the top of my opponent. Or I want to be a red deck. I'm going to put all cards that are attack cards in my deck so that no matter what I flip, or I'm going to make them 70, 80%. So in any given flip, I'm going to prioritize dealing a little, just, that extra nudge of damage with each of my attacks.
Yep. And that's the big color pie element of the game, as it were. Do you go orange or blue?
Oh, okay. So what were they again? Orange is attack?
Orange is attack, blue was defense, and white
is explode. Yeah.
Okay. So there was this thing of like, you could go orange and blue, white, just put in cards and see what happens. That's what the starter decks were like. And it's really fun. There's a lot of variance. But you could just go, no, every card in my deck is going to have an orange pip. Because that way, when I attack, I'm guaranteed to do extra damage. Yeah, when they attack me, I can't do anything about it, but I know what I'm going to do on my turn. And the reverse is true. I know how much I can defend on my turn. Like you get consistency, but less variance.
Usually the first instinct is like, I'm going to murder people as hard as I can. Like as a new, not a brand new player, but like an intermediate player. You know, I play a lot of video games. I want to deal a lot of damage. So I'm going to stack that orange deck. And then after a while, you'll probably say, I'm guessing, I want more control over the game. So I'm going to stack a little more defense in my deck. So I have a better chance of having a long game, having more opportunities to outplay my opponent.
In Magic, you have aggro, midrange, and control.
Yeah.
But in Transformers, you had two axes for this. You had go wide and go tall on your robots. You could have a wide, think about it, if you have a really wide team, you get more attacks because you only untap when both players have finished tapping all their characters.
Oh, it's one of those games, yeah. Okay.
If you only have 2 characters and I have 5, I'm going to hit you 5 times and you're going to hit me twice.
So those the corner of the deck matters more. Or rather, if I have fewer robots, I might nudge towards more blue cards, more defense cards, because I'm going to be hit a lot by a bunch of little guys, and I want to deflect as much of that damage as possible. Because if I have a bunch of little guys, I want to juice their damage as much as possible because it's a bunch of little guys.
Or it can go the other way. You can go wide and have lots of blue and be really defensive. So the battle deck can be aggressive or defensive, and then the team can be wide or tall, and you can mix and match however you want. You can have the same team with a completely different battle deck. And it will play differently. So that was a really fun aspect of the archetypes in the game.
All right, so one more thing before we get any deeper. When I tap my robot to attack, I pick my target, and then I flip 2 cards. I get both results, or I pick one result? How does that work?
You get everything.
You get everything. Okay, and that's why exploding is good because, if I flip a blue and a white card, that white card tells me to flip 2 more cards, and I get another blue and then an orange, and then we're good.
Or you flip a card with 2 orange pips and then a white, then you get 2 more, and they're both.
Oh, a card can have more than 1 pip.
Yes, they can. You can get orange blue cards. You can get orange white. Like you can have double multicolor cards and everything. So you can end up doing like an extra 6 damage in an attack or more.
Okay.
You can really build that side of your deck how you want. Yeah. There's a lot of options there.
I'm not necessarily guaranteeing that I'm going to like look for a specific card when I'm flipping. I'm not building the deck hoping I always hit my double orange. But I know, okay, I put a lot of blue in here. I'm going to make decisions on my turn knowing that when I get attacked, I feel pretty likely I'm going to get at least 1 blue out of my 2 cards.
Exactly. The dice roll is very much your decision of what numbers can show up.
Yeah, it's pretty different from a dice roll because of that. Like I'm not just like increasing a dice roll or decreasing a dice roll. I'm sort of getting a different mixture of results. Yeah.
And some of the cards are so strong. Like there's a card literally called Lightning Bolt that does 3 damage. But it has no battle icons. Because it's that strong.
Yeah. The thing that's nice about this is that you have a lot of different ways to get some randomness in there. Yeah. That the players feel like they do control, but that also can be affected a lot by the robots that you choose. Because I can imagine, I don't know the cards, but I can imagine there is a spell slinger transformer who loves lightning bolts and like can take advantage of lightning bolts more so than other robots.
There's one of my favorite characters in the game was Blue Streak.
Okay.
His robot form was when he attacks, if he flipped orange, blue, and white, you turned him back into his car form. And the reason you did that was his robot had 6 attack and 0 defense, but his car had 4 defense.
Oh, okay.
So the idea is you attack with him, you flip the cards, and if you can get every color, he'll get some defense. Otherwise, he has no defense when your opponent attacks, right?
Yeah.
So he's telling you, play everything. You want to pick cards that have multiple colors, play everything. You need to play white cards because you need to be able to flip into more cards to hit his thing. And if you don't, he's going to probably get knocked out very quickly because he's tapped and he can't attack again. But your opponent can keep wailing on him as much as he wants.
Obviously, the Transformers, they flip back and forth. Are the 2 sides of the robots pretty different? Do they have rules text on them? They must have some.
They do have rules text on them, and it's different. Some Transformers have very few abilities on one side and bigger abilities on the other. Some of the Transformers are designed, like Blue Streak, to flip back and forth.
Oh, okay.
And others are designed, no, you transform them once into their bot mode because that's their powerful mode, and you just leave them there.
Oh, because they all start in vehicle mode.
Yeah,
Is that right?
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. So there's a bunch of different card designs that are available because obviously the game needs to have lots of interesting designs to survive.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
The complexity of cards really is the Transformers, and so they have a bunch of interesting things of like, as you'll see when we get through this more, there are really interesting things that they do with it.
Yeah, and they need to be able to design, I don't know. Eventually they need do you know, like, are there, like, 30 robots in a given set or
In the first set, there are 40 Transformers.
40? Oh, okay, yeah. But so that does mean eventually they need to be able to design 200, 300 different robots, like, if the game, does well. So they need to have not just opportunities for the battle cards to be different, and it sounds like the battle cards have two different ways of being different. They can either be different in terms of their mechanics or different in terms of their pips. But then the robots themselves also need to encourage you to care about a wide variety of stuff.
Right. There's also typal elements that they can care about. So you can care about cars.
Oh,
right?
I like
you can
that.
care about tanks and trucks and helicopters and spaceships, and there's all these different things that they turn into. So you can have a car deck.
I don't know Transformers that well. Is it natural for them to have like, I'm the hero? Like, do they have like faction stuff? Like, I'm the Decepticons or I'm the Autobots. Like, are those things you care about?
Yes, there were Autobot and Decepticons. Every Transformer was either an Autobot or they're a Decepticon.
Oh, okay.
There are battle cards that care about Autobots and Decepticons, and there are some battle cards that say, hey, your whole team has to be Autobots.
Okay.
They can scale that as well. They can say, look, your team has to only be this thing, or your team can mix and match as you want.
Yeah, a little companion-y. Yeah.
There's a bunch of fun car upgrades and things like tires, and you can put on your cars.
So we have companions. Companions kind of didn't work, or they're going to be hard to revisit. Can we put that on like a sorcery? Can we put a companion style rule? You don't get it in your hand to start the game, but in order to cast it, something has to be true about your deck.
I like that. I like that.
You have to have an 80 card deck to cast this spell.
I like that.
You have to have a deck of all even cards to cast this spell.
That is I actually really like that. That would be a really fun way to put things like Black Lotus back in the game.
Yeah, Black Lotus. Okay, all your creatures have to have power 1 or less.
Right? Okay. You want to put Lightning Bolt back in your deck, fine. But here's it's like the forbidden mechanic,
where there's like an outside deck or whatever.
Yeah, that would be a fun way of doing it without requiring the outside deck. You just have these cards that have a. I like that.
Mm-hmm. With companion, we've found that the companion rules are fairly easy to track. Sure, at the beginning of the game, you don't know if their deck meets the Loris condition or the Yorian condition, but it would be so obvious and so instantly wrong if they broke the rule. And so we have that ability, and that actually still feels pretty sound. Getting a free card, that was the broken part. But the ability to set rules, that feels real.
I'm really on board. I think that's actually a really good idea.
Yeah, and it's like different from like Kindred tribal stuff because it's.
No, I'm with you on this. I'm absolutely on board. That's really cool idea, actually.
Thanks, Transformers. We already got a good nugget out of you.
Yeah, that's the equivalent of play. Can only be played on cars. Can only be played on planes. Like that's like actually saying, hey, you can't play this spell unless this is true about your deck. It's not the same as saying enchant bird. It's different because you're allowed to put power behind it in a way that you can't with enchant bird, right?
Yeah.
I like it.
All right.
I like it.
So in Transformers, are the concept of like, I'm the leader of a team. I'm the medic,
leader is a trait. Leader is a trait.
A trait is like truck or something like that.
Yeah. So every Transformer has underneath its name a couple of traits. So they will have the thing that they turn into, like truck, car, whatever.
Yeah.
But they also have a role that if they belong to a little team,
like a job,
if they belong to, they might have that. And there are 3 main roles in the game. There's melee, ranged, and specialist. And there are a bunch of cards that play only on melee cards or play only on ranged or specialists. And leader is like a 4th version. And there are cards that care about leaders. So there are like the Autobot Matrix of Leadership can only be played on an Autobot leader, right?
Oh, of course, I definitely know what that is.
Right? Like that can only be played on a leader.
Yeah.
But there, like Starscream's Crown can only be played on a Decepticon leader.
Hmm.
And then there are cards that literally say can only be played on Megatron.
I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you get to pick your cards at the front, so you don't have to worry about drawing into
Yeah.
them. And what's interesting is if those characters are knocked out before you get those cards, then those cards become dead cards in your deck.
Oh,
But they
funny.
still have their battle icons, so they still have some relevance.
Okay.
So to end the turn,
Yeah.
after you've
Yeah.
attacked,
Yeah.
you end your turn. It's your opponent's turn.
Mm-hmm.
Say I've got 4 and you've got 2.
Okay.
Once you've tapped your second character, on my turn, I will play cards like normal. I'll draw 1 card. I'll play my 1 action, 1 upgrade, transform 1 person. Then I will attack you, and because you're tapped out, I will attack again with my other characters until I've tapped out entirely. I don't get a full turn.
Oh.
I just keep attacking, and I can attack the same person. I can change who I'm attacking. I can just attack. Once I'm done, we untap, and then it's your turn. And that means you get to pick any of my characters to attack because all my guys are untapped.
Oh, yeah. I'm thinking of like Hearthstone, where you pick which creature you're attacking on the other side.
Yeah.
They have taunt and stuff like that, but for the most part, you're picking whoever you want. And here, it kind of ebbs and flows how much selection you have. At the very beginning, the very first person to attack can pick anything. But then because that guy's out in front, he has to be attacked by the opponent.
Right.
But then that guy who attacked, now that's my option. And then as it gets further along, there are more and more options until it resets.
Exactly.
Okay.
And if your battle deck runs out, you just reshuffle.
Oh, okay.
And it will run out.
Oh, because you're flipping like 2 per attack.
You know when you're going to untap, and you have to kind of work out, okay, when I untap, who am I going to attack? And also, my deck, I know what's in my hand. I know what's in my discard pile. I know what's in my deck now. So I know what's going to happen when I do attack and when I defend. And so there's a lot of fun in actually tracking all those things.
Funny. It sounds a little card counting-y. Like,
it can be.
I have more incentive than in Magic. In Magic, it is good to know, hey, I've drawn a ton of lands, so I'm kind of due for some spells. But that's really vague. Like, it's swinging between, 40% and 20% whether you're going to rip a land. Like, it's not going to, you can't just kind of look at your deck usually in most Magic games and know these are the 7 cards left in the deck. Whereas it seems here with the pip, like what were they called? The pips on the cards. Yeah.
Yeah.
You could start to want to know that. But maybe, maybe most of your cards are blue and I can see the 2 white cards in my hand. Yeah. So I know I'm not going to explode, first of all. And I blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
It's definitely an opt-in. There are some cards, I mentioned Blue Streak, but there are other cards where you have things like if you flip 1 of each color or you flip 2 of each color and all these kind of things, you get a big bonus. And it can be like on an upgrade or a transform. Or it can be on an action card. Like you can do this thing of like, if I play this now, what cards are in my deck? How likely is this to pull off? Because I built my deck in such a way that this should be doable. Can I actually do this? Do I have enough cards, or am I going to reshuffle into a thing? And there are some cards like Cosmos who cares about actually forcing your opponent to reshuffle.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very opt-in thing. You can, you don't. It doesn't. The game isn't intrinsically card county, but it can be if that's something you're interested in doing.
Okay. A couple other questions. I feel like we're rounding out like our main rules section here, so I just
the rules are done. That's it.
Yeah. So it's the 4 robots on 2 robots thing. When it's the 4 robot has attacked, it's gone back and forth, and now I have 2 untapped robots. The other guy has no untapped robots. I only attack. I can't play actions or whatever anymore. Is that true?
If your opponent is fully tapped out, and you still have untapped Transformers, once you've done your draw play cards, you then will attack with all your Transformers one after the other. You won't get the opening part of your turn again. Otherwise, obviously, you'd end up drawing so many cards and playing so many more cards.
You won't get the extra card draw. No. You don't get the extra action plays. No. Is that correct? You don't get to flip another Transformer.
No.
So there is an advantage to having more guys because you're attacking more.
Yeah.
But it's not as much of a resource advantage. It's just I have more guys. Okay.
What was really fascinating about the professional, the World
Sure.
Championship stuff was the sideboard. You had a sideboard of 15 cards and one Transformer.
Oh.
And people could literally change their decks between games.
That's fun.
Because of what I said about how you could take 15 cards out, replace them with 15 more, switch up one robot, and you could go from a 2-wide team that was highly defensive into an aggressive 3-wide team.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Yeah. So at the base level of the game, before they layered all these extra aspects to the cards, is less random, right? We both have all these robots. I can look at the robot outlay, my robots, their robots, and know a lot about the game. So instead, they have to add in a little bit more random with this flop system, with the pips to re-inject a little bit of randomness in terms of outcomes.
Yeah,
because otherwise you would know. Okay, I always deal I see that robot. It's got 12 health. I have 3 attack.
right.
So I know it always takes exactly 4 hits, but it doesn't always take exactly 4 hits.
Exactly. Yeah.
That was a big argument going from StarCraft to Warcraft 3. StarCraft had like definitive damage, whereas like Warcraft has like damage ranges.
I didn't know
like
that.
This archer deals 3 to 6 damage, whereas in StarCraft it was like
Oh.
I can roll up, everyone fires once, and exactly 1 unit will die.
Oh, that's interesting.
Those I don't know. I think people argued about on the internet. For better or worse. All right. So what's the kind of vibe here? Is it likely that a robot's going to die in the first couple turns? Is it unlike, or I guess there's sort of turns. Each player takes a turn back and forth, and there's a round. Is that the right term?
That would probably be what people would refer it to. Yeah, there's a round.
Okay, yeah. So like after the first round, is a robot maybe dead, or is that kind of unlikely?
It's often very likely because what would typically happen is whoever you attack with first on your first turn, because your opponent has to attack them, they will probably just attack them and only them.
Yeah. Once you've done that in the first round, you may as well keep doing that until the untap.
Yeah.
And then I guess with the untap, maybe then you have the opportunity, if your robot took 9 damage on their 12 health, then you can say, I'm going to wait to attack with them for a long time to spread the damage around. Yeah. Okay. That probably means that maybe a game is 3 to 6 rounds. Does that sound about right?
That sounds about right. I'm trying to think how often it is that you untap in a game. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay.
If you have like a team of 3 or 4 Transformers, chances are, unless you've got shenanigans like I mentioned with Blue Streak, you're probably only going to transform each robot once.
Okay. Maybe we could also just like read 1 robot, 1 action, 1 upgrade. Before we move on.
Let's do that. So I've got the first set in front of me. How about, let's see, where's Mirage? Oh, there he is. I found him. Okay, I got him. So here's Mirage. He's a blue and white F1. He is a 9-cost Autobot.
Okay.
He's a car and he's melee. This is what he starts as a Formula 1 car. 4 attack, 12 health, 2 defense. When you flip to this mode, you may play an action. So this doesn't do anything on this beginning. It's just a 4-12-2. His bot side is ranged. So he goes from melee to ranged. He's a 5-12-2. 4-12-2, 5-12-2. So he gets +1 attack.
Okay.
When this attacks for the first time each turn and you flip at least 3 white icons,
okay,
untap him.
Wow.
So he can keep attacking.
I was wondering, there doesn't seem to be a lot of incentive to play a lot of whites because you only get 1 explode per flip. But with this guy, if your deck is like all white cards, then he'll be able to do a bunch of cool stuff.
And he has, remember, when you turn him back into his car form, you can play an action. So he works well with action cards, right?
There's like 2 different hooks to build off of with this guy. Play some white cards, have some actions that are good when you combo them.
Yeah. So let's pick a battle card. What do you want? Action, upgrade? What do you want?
Well, give me one of each.
Okay. So I will give you a really basic card that shows up it showed up in every starter. These were the double orange pips and the double blue pips. This is called Improvised Shield. It's got 2 orange pips. It's an armor upgrade. And it gives whoever you put it on a keyword, tough 1. And what tough 1 it means is this flips 1 more card when it defends.
Okay.
So that's how you go off.
That's how you get to the
That's how you start getting crazy numbers. And this might explain to you, and I'll give you another card called Supercharge,
Okay.
which is a action. Orange pip, one of your characters gets bold 3 until end of turn. And
Okay.
bold means it flips that many extra cards when it attacks.
Bold 3. Okay, so I'm going to flip 5 cards instead of 2.
Exactly, when it attacks. It's just an action, so it's just this one time. So you play Supercharge on something, you then give it an upgrade that gives it bold 1. You're flipping 4 extra cards, so you're flipping 6 cards on your first turn, first attack, bam.
So they're pretty confident letting you flip a pretty large number of cards, it seems like.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a bunch of fun cards as well, like just one more very quick one. Rapid Conversion is a white pip card, and it just lets you transform a transformer.
Oh, okay.
So that's how you can get extra flips out of a Mirage.
Ah, okay. Yeah. All right, Lizzie. I know you're itching to talk about these expansions, so let's try to paint those pictures too.
Okay. So the first set came out in September 2018, which was literally the day Magic Arena entered open beta.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Guilds of Ravnica had just come out.
I played a lot of Guilds of Ravnica on the arena beta, so
that's when this game came out. It had 40 character cards and 81 battle cards.
Okay.
There was a starter set with 4 characters, but there was also a really cool starter set called Metroplex, which is a giant transformer that turns into a city.
Okay.
He was a 25-star character. He's your
okay.
team. His card was double the size of regular character cards.
Oh, very nice, very nice.
So he was this huge playmat type card. You stuck him down. And he had a unique trait, which was Titan. There are a bunch of these Transformers that came out which were oversized, and they were like, you could play a Titan and use all the Titan cards between them.
Okay.
Really fun. The keywords in the set were bold and tough, which I told you about, and Pierce. Pierce had a number, and it was like Pierce 3, for example. And what that meant was this character does a minimum of this much damage, but never more than its attack. So if you got Pierce 3, but you only had 2 attack, you could only do 2 damage, right?
Okay.
But the idea was if you have Pierce 3 and you do attack 6, no matter how much blue your opponent flipped, you're doing 3 damage. They needed to make sure the game would actually end. You couldn't just stalemate the game.
Okay, so even with the whatever pips I flip, I've got 4 defense. I flipped 3 blue pips somehow. Despite all that, despite all that, you have 3 attack and you have Pierce 3, so you're going to deal 3 damage despite all that defense. Okay.
Yeah. You've got blue decks and you've got orange decks in tournaments. They got the balance right between these two things. Things like Pierce kept it in line. It was really smooth. So that's the first set. That's all the basic stuff. Now they're going to start adding things. So the second set was called Rise of the Combiners.
Combiners. Okay.
Yeah. So this came out around the time of Ravnica Allegiance.
I love it.
Okay. Right? March 2019. Ravnica Allegiance time. This had 46 characters now and 81 battle cards. It had a Bumblebee versus Megatron starter pack, and the other starter pack was the Constructicon. The Constructicons are the iconic combiner team. They are one of the biggest fan favorite things. The fact that this was a starter pack and not something you had to crack packs to get those characters is amazing. I couldn't believe they did it because I thought, they're doing a combiner set. Getting the Constructicons is going to be so hard. They're all going to be rare. No, they made it starter pack. You bought them, you got them, they worked right out the gate.
Are the Constructicons like work site? Do they have like hard hats and stuff? Are they really hammed up, or they're just a?
Yes, they turn into Scrapper turns into a bulldozer. No, a forklift,
a crane and stuff.
Yeah, like the hook is a crane, right? And Mixmaster's meant mixer. Yeah, full on. They also built a tower. That was the thing. Their mechanic was that they would put counters on a little tower card that you had, and the more tower tokens you had, the stronger they got. But they were 6 robots, so they had 4-cost robots to make it 25.
Bunch of little guys.
You put them all together, so they were designed to be a 6-robot team. These cards, the Constructicons, were triple-faced, not double.
What?
That was the reaction I was hoping for. They were triple faced. So what they were is, imagine a regular magic card, right? Double face magic card, but you could open it up.
Oh, hell yeah.
So it's got a big card on the inside that's twice the size, right?
All right.
One small side is the robot, the other small side is the truck, right? You open it up, and the idea was all 6 of them, you put those opened up versions together to make one enormous robot.
One robot that is the size of, what is that, 12 cards? Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy that they went for 6 and not like 2.
Well, you see,
I guess
you
it's the
get
flavor. You got to match
yeah,
the
but
flavor.
also you get to pick them. You get to pick who you start with, so you don't have to worry about drawing into.
I guess that's true. Yeah, yeah.
And they had a bunch of different combiner teams. So they had the aerial bots, the stunticons.
Oh, so those also might be like 2 or 3 robots that all open up and combine into one big robot?
Yeah, there was loads of them. There were loads of these. There were some characters that were just 2 Transformers that turned into, like, Dreadwing and Darkwing would turn into one giant plane, and that was the toy. And this was the thing that you could do here. There was a whole bunch of them.
What causes them to fuse? What causes them to combine?
Okay, so there is a card called, in this case, it would be the Constructicon Enigma card, but it would be the Aerial Bot Enigma card. There's a battle card, right?
Enigma. I'm loving
Enigma. There's a battle card, and all of these cards are exactly the same. They just specify which team they're referring to. These were an action, and what they said was, if you have all of these Transformers in bot mode, they combine. So this is what I was referring to about how long a game takes.
Yeah.
You had to transform each one of them into bot mode and then combine them. So they had to survive.
Yeah, yeah.
You had to, like a Constructicon deck, you had to spend 6 turns and you had to transform each one.
And I'm imagining there's like ways to cheat where like I've got cards that can flip 1 or 2 of them, but it's still going to take me 4 or 5 turns. Yeah.
Exactly. But the hope was you could do it in a round because there's a good chance your guys would not survive.
Okay. So you really have to turbo it out. Okay.
Yeah, you do. And when you did unite them, by the way, you didn't have to put the whole team together. You could just have one of their own, but obviously they wouldn't be able to combine. But you could just go, I'm going to put one of these characters in my team because they're good.
Yeah.
They have a good ability that works with my team.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah.
Or they're a plane or they're a truck and I want to fill out my deck and they cost less so I can fit them in. Like I have a few extra points spare, I'm going to put in a 5-cost aerial bot.
Yeah, yeah. There's like people played Gisela, the like meld angel, without the other one.
Exactly. When they combined, you had this enormous robot, great stats. Any damage that any of them took stayed on the big version.
Oh, okay.
And there was no way to uncombine them. That's what they were until the end of the game. So you had one big robot that attacked once, and then your opponent would attack with everything. So you didn't have to tap your robot because you knew if you attacked or not. Tapping that would be a nightmare, right?
Right.
Right. The other thing that these Enigmas had, is in this set they debuted a new battle pip.
Oh.
They debuted a green pip.
Green.
And what the green pip meant was after each battle, you could swap one card in your hand for one flipped green card.
Oh, okay. So I might have a green and orange card and a green and blue card.
Right.
And I really need a blue right now. I have the green blue in my hand. I flipped a green orange and I can say, whoop, it's actually a blue.
Yeah. So you can swap anything for the green.
Oh.
What was really cool about this mechanic was for Enigmas, it made a lot of sense. Once you got your 5 or 6 robots in bot mode, you really needed that Enigma. You'd flip into it and then you could just get it. So you could guarantee it was easier to draw because you only have 3 copies of it in your deck.
Oh, because I flipped the Enigma card, the thing that actually initiates the combination.
Right.
I flipped that card mid-combat where its text is irrelevant and only its pip matters.
Yep.
But it has this green pip that says, whoop, I need to actually draw that card. Let me flop in an orange from my hand.
And that's where a lot of the game had green pips. So that you would have answers to your opponent's cards, so that you didn't just have to rely on drawing it. Rather than putting the green pip in the first set, they saved it for the second.
Yeah, yeah. What would this be like in Magic? Cards that are in my graveyard that I can say, whoop, swap that with this card in my hand.
Yeah, there's something really interesting about in Magic. If you had a card that said, when this goes to your graveyard from anywhere but like the battlefield, I guess, you can swap this with a card in your hand to put it in your hand, right? You just draw it. So if you mill it, hey, I get it. If your opponent mills it, if your opponent makes you discard it, no, I'm going to take it back and get another one.
I guess it's a little bit like Retrace, where I could discard lands to recast the same spell.
Yeah.
But that's not quite why I'm. This is like right as it flips, I have to do the swap.
Yeah, you don't want it to be like you can just draw from your graveyard, but because you don't flip in Magic in the same way that you do, it's not going to happen as often. But it would be a nice thing of like it would be more defensive than it is in Transformers, right? Because it's more like I'm going to make sure I get the card I need and it can't be removed from my deck. Whereas in Transformers, it's to guarantee that you draw it.
I'm thinking like a Laboratory Maniac, where I'm playing that in draft, and it gets milled, and I'm like, oh, that was like the whole point I was milling. But if I have some opportunity to like spend out some resources, no, I actually get that. That's the whole point of my deck.
Perfect.
It's when you use that kind of tool.
I agree. Yeah, like for alt win conditions and stuff, that would be a really fun tool to have.
Yeah. I'm not doing it to cast Lightning Bolt over and over. I'm doing it to like set up a cool thing, like the robots combining.
Yeah, and you'd want it to trigger when it gets milled or discarded, not when it gets played and goes. Like if it's going to the graveyard because you played it, that's okay, right? But it's when it gets milled. Milling is one of those strategies that people get very annoyed with if it works. You know, if you get milled out, it's often a very big feel bad. This would actually be a nice way to alleviate that and maybe mean we get to see milling.
Okay, yeah. Because traditionally, like Innistrad, milling your opponent often gave them free flashback cards.
Yeah.
But when you bring back those milling cards to the generic game, like that's not nearly the same downside.
No.
Interesting.
And there's also something I think good about having a small window of opportunity to play.
Yeah, small window.
Because otherwise the game gets very complex. You have so many options that stack up. If it's just like, you have this window now, do you want to take advantage of it? Yes or no? Okay, then it's gone. Because with the green pip, you can't take any green pip. It's just the ones you flip just now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Alrighty.
They also added a couple of new keywords. One is called plan. So it would have a number like plan 1, and that means you put one card from your hand on top of your deck.
Oh, to flip for pips.
Exactly. So it's card disadvantage, but you know what you're going to flip.
Okay.
There's a card called Master Plan, and it just is plan 6. That's all it is. It's an action.
Stack your deck.
Plan 6, done. I've never played it and got to have 6 cards to throw down on top of my deck. The other cool thing that they invented for this set is they came up with 2 keywords because they discovered a problem, which was because a lot of kids were playing this. They didn't know who to attack on turn 1. If you're going first, you have a lot of options. There's a complexity issue with the game, which is that the first turn is actually very complex.
Okay.
Actually quite complex. So they created 2 keywords to alleviate this.
Okay.
Stealth and brave. Stealth meant enemies have to attack other characters if they're able.
Oh.
And brave was the reverse. Enemies have to attack this character if able. This didn't overrule the tap-untap rule.
Oh, okay. It's just a tie break in between tap-untap. Okay.
Exactly. If there's multiple eligible options, you can't pick stealth and you must pick brave.
Yeah. But if my stealth guy attacks first, he's tapped and therefore can be attacked and must be attacked.
Exactly. But what I find so interesting about it is how it solves that problem. Because if you have a stealth and you have a brave character out or whatever, your opponent knows I can't attack this one or I have to attack this one. There was an aerial bot who was 5 stars and was brave. And people would put that in their decks because you have to attack them on turn 1. You can't attack my main character that I built my deck around. I've just got like a nice bodyguard that you have to attack. In terms of Magic, I'm like, what is complexity pinches that, we could do with a keyword.
Yeah.
Like, when does the game get really complex? And it's like when there's loads of cards on the battlefield and things, there could be something interesting in a stealth brave type thing. These cards you can't affect. Like there's a
Yeah.
tiered system. Like we have ward now, but you could have a similar thing like, hey, this thing has hexproof as long as you control another creature. Or your other creatures have hexproof as you control.
Oh yeah, there's like a Shalai or something that does that. One of the angels.
Oh yeah, of course there is. Yeah.
I'm sort of thinking that like a Transformers game starts at 70% complexity and like goes up to 100 on round 3 or something, and then just like falls off from there. Whereas Magic like starts at like 5% complexity and then just like slowly increases and then hits a ramp and goes nuts.
Yeah, Transformers definitely has this thing where the strategic complexity goes up as the game. It has like a nice bell curve, I guess, to the game.
Yeah.
But there is a board complexity issue on turn 1 where you have to read all your opponent's Transformers and then work out which one you're going to attack.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah.
That's actually a sticking point, and the fact that it's the first turn of the game. So the game is actually quite simple to play.
Yeah.
And it's really fun, and the strategy of it is actually really interesting. But there is just this issue of like, on turn 1, I sit down against my opponent. I don't know what any of their Transformers do. I need to read all of them and then work out what I'm attacking.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Like I even think like if a commander has 7 lines of text on it, I already kind of don't want to read it. And if I imagine my opponent having like 3 commanders, each of which who have like 3 lines of text, that puts me in a similar kind of, I don't really care.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. But there's no Transformer in the game that has anywhere close to the kind of game text as a commander.
Yeah, there are 2 sides, which probably
There are
gets you
2
kind of close
sides.
to commanders. Yeah.
I would argue that the complexity of them is like having uncommons.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. You don't get triggered abilities in the same way.
I guess that's true. You don't get triggers. Yeah.
I'm with you though. I actually do agree that that is an issue with the game in terms of complexity. It's like this is just something it has to deal with.
I don't know. I mean, it's not a good or bad thing. We're just kind of breaking down how it works.
It's definitely a thing of like the more complex the characters, the more stars they require, so the fewer of them they're going to be.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I'd be interested how the like double-sided stuff feels as well. Like you said that one of the cards that you read was like a commander a robot that on one side, when it flips to this side, play an extra action.
Yeah.
If there were a decent number of those, I feel like I'd want to know that like when it's on the robot side, I really need to be thinking about what's on the back side of that card because if it does flip, that's going to be super relevant.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Interesting.
There's so much crunchiness to the game.
Yeah.
But I guess because it's Transformers and it's giant cards, there's just this sense of like, you know what, it doesn't matter if I don't.
Having big cards on the relevant things, I was also thinking is kind of nice. Like just the ability to read upside down from the other side of the table that's an 8 and not a 9. Like that's kind of a nice thing because it's a physically larger card. Yeah. I've seen games where like the power or whatever is like really small on a card, which is awful. Like if we could make power and toughness bigger on Magic cards, that would make me happy.
I wish they did. I honestly don't understand why Magic cards don't have the icons they use, for like flying.
Oh yeah, throw those on there too. Yeah. Get an icon for each ability word. No, we're getting somewhere here. Each keyword has an icon. It's printed on the card, so you have a chance reading far away what that icon is. Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah, with Transformers, it's only those 3 cards or 4 cards, whatever. They aren't going to get more Transformers as the game goes on. They're only going to get fewer. So once you overcome that first turn hurdle, it's clean sailing. But I forgot about this, but you're right. They're bigger cards. They're easier to see from across the table. They're easier to remember. The pictures are very iconic. It's a lot easier to remember. Oh, you had a police car, a Formula One, and a truck. It's very easy to remember which one's which. You don't get confused. They don't come and go. Once they're gone, they're gone.
I think the opposite was true with werewolves. Like the werewolves were so flavorfully similar to each other that it was often like, which one is that? Which one is that? They especially the backside of werewolves, you had no chance of remembering.
You are so right, yeah. And in Magic, again, like what power and toughness does your command have? And I kind of actually, it makes me think about, I remember when I was playing this, I was like, is there a way we could solve this in Commander? Because I do feel some players absolutely feel like they should know what your commander does before the game starts. because they don't know what it does. Some commanders have effects while they're in the command zone.
Yeah.
Right?
And even more just like, oh, it has an ETB that's really relevant. Or it hints something really specific about the deck that I can use to get an advantage.
I'm genuinely feeling like with commanders, it's true they do want you want complex, interesting commanders, right? But I feel like the 7 lines of game text, multicolor commanders, like I actually feel like there should be some sort of design constraints on like what kind of commander where do we want the complexity to be on as opposed to let's just make it fun and interesting. And it's like I think there's certain things that maybe we don't want to put pressure on people on turn 1 of the game.
Yeah. I was thinking about this because I just built a commander. It doesn't really matter. It's called Tai Joaquin. It's like the sniper character. But anyhow, but it has 2 abilities that are not that related to each other. That's like kind of bad for comprehension for my opponents. Like I would show everyone and they would kind of read it and get the general idea. Then I'd probably like give like a summary of like why that would matter. And then during the game, they'd usually have to read it again or I'd have to tell them about it.
Yeah.
It was unlikely that they would fully grok it on the first read. But there's an advantage to this that I was thinking about. It made deck building extremely fun.
Oh.
It made introducing it to players wasn't that fun, but because there were 2 different hooks, the cards that mattered, I'm playing 50 cards in that deck that I've never played in another commander deck because of what this commander enables. Well, and so I think that's how we got into this problem, how we got to commanders that are like hard to grok as opponents, is that they make for super fun builds, super fun deck builds.
Is this... I found it. Okay, got it. So whenever a source you control deals combat damage to a creature equal to that creature's toughness, draw a card. So, okay, so when you kill something with non-combat damage, you draw a card.
Yeah, if you lightning bolt a 3 toughness creature, you draw a card. If you lightning bolt a 2 toughness creature or a 7 toughness creature, you don't draw a card.
Okay. And then X tap, if a source you control will deal non-combat damage to a permanent or player this turn, it deals that much damage plus X instead. Oh my. Okay, you can pump things.
You basically turn all of your instants and sorcery damage spells are fireballs now.
Okay, and then if you hit the right number, you get to draw cards. Okay, and so so you're saying what was fun about this is it created 2 ways to build cards? Is that what you build decks?
Yeah. Anything that does like 1 damage is like pretty good because you can scale it to whatever number you want. Like if you have a card, Gutter Snipe, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, creature deals 2 damage to each opponent. If I activate tie for 3 or 4 and then I cast a couple cheap spells, I get a couple of gutter Snipe triggers and it just goes, I get to deal a lot of face damage to my opponents.
So the tap actually pumps Gutter Snipe for the whole turn.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you see now, I think that's a cool card, but my thought is this something you want on a commander because everyone has to know what this does straight away?
Yep.
Did you see, because I think that card's cool, but...
Yeah, exactly. And I fully agree that it's like
weird.
But
if I sit down to someone at a table and like I have that card, I'm like, I don't know what this card does, and I've still got 2 more to look at. You know what I mean? I'm like, my patience is wearing thin.
And I guess it also changes if you are expecting your game to be 4-player. I feel like the burden should be a little higher, or even like how big is the power and toughness box? Maybe it should be a little bigger because I think a really common thing is the diagonal player from you and commander. You can't tell how big any of those creatures are.
You can't. It's
unless you have memorized the card.
It's too hard. It's too hard. What's that? Is that 3/3 or it's 3/4? Yeah, there's so much. Like the Transformers cards are big and they have like a big orange thing that says attack, a big red one that has the health, and a big blue one for the defense. You know what your opponent has in front of you.
All right, so do we want to try to knock out 1 or 2 more expansions here?
There's only 3 left. And so the next set was called War for Cybertron Siege, Part 1.
It was Part 1.
So this was tied to a toy release, and this is where my heart gets even more broken. The idea that they could make sets to tie in with toy releases. I don't get the toys anymore, but I love that idea that they had like a TV show, to build stuff on.
It really makes you more attached to the card.
Yeah, like we could have got a Transformers 1 set. It would be great.
Yeah.
This came out 1 month after War of the Spark.
Oh,
so June 2019. Again, 48 characters now, 64 battle cards. So they dropped a number of battle cards, and there's a reason for this, and there's a reason why the characters want to. Because now, you got your big Transformer, you got your battle cards, but you got one or two fewer battle cards, and instead you got a small Transformer that was a regular card size. Because this introduced MicroMasters, which were the tiny little Transformers. This game had a card size matters element to it.
Oh, funny.
You could actually care about how big the Transformer was. So the biggest Transformers would cost 20 stars or something, and you had cards that cared about how many stars cards costed, and that was their way of referring card size.
Yeah.
This also had Blaster and Soundwave, and they had their little mini cassette Transformer for their 30.
Oh, so a big Transformer might have a baby Transformer embedded in it.
Exactly. That was the 35th anniversary. So you would start with Soundwave or Blaster in their boombox mode, and underneath them, you tell your opponent, like, these are the cassettes, and you'd stick them underneath, and then they would be able to eject the cassettes as the game went on. You would transform them, they'd eject a cassette, and then you transform back, and it was really fun.
Oh, reabsorb it. Okay, cool, yeah.
This also introduced a new battle icon, which was black.
Oh, a new pip, okay.
Black just gave Pierce 1.
Pierce 1, okay. Minimum damage.
A minimum damage. So you could play like a black deck and just have guaranteed small amounts of damage. You could go orange-black and go for high damage, and so or you could go blue-black, make sure you get damage through. Different ways of doing it. Black was quite strong. It had a lot of strong cards.
If the two control decks are, if the two control decks are fighting, I want to be the blue-black deck versus the blue deck.
There was a new card type, Secret Actions.
Oh, I was wondering if we were going to get this,
Yeah, these were actions, so they took up your action slot, but they were secret. And what that meant was you played it face down, and at the start of your next turn, you discarded it.
Okay.
While it was face down, it had a reveal condition. If your opponent did something, you got to reveal it, and you got to do something. So these were your counter spells. You would put it down, and it would be like, reveal this if your opponent plays an orange card, and then you'd flip it, and it would say, cancel that card. So there was a bluffing element of what did they just play, and can I play around it?
Yeah, Hearthstone had 3 of the classes had those basically from the very beginning. Because Hearthstone also, you can't play during your opponent's turn. So there you'd set those up, and they would remain forever. You could play a secret on turn 1, and it might take until turn 8 to actually trigger. But here you're saying you got a 1-turn window for that to matter?
Kenneth Nagel wrote an article about why it's 1 turn and not permanent. Originally, it was permanent.
Yeah.
But the problem he discovered was if you make it permanent, your opponent has to basically play as if you have it. It removes the bluffing element because it just doesn't matter. They have to play through it. There's never a moment where they can. So because it had this 1-turn window, there was this situation where you go, I think they've played this. I'm not going to risk it, and I'm going to do something else, and they might bluff you, right? But it's only 1 turn. And other times you'd be like,
so
I reckon I know what it is.
So only secret actions can be played face down. You can't fully bluff and take a regular.
It has to be a secret action.
Lightning bolt.
Yeah.
Okay. But what the secret action is variable, and maybe I know more or less about this format.
Yeah.
There are 8 secrets in this format, but they'd really only be playing one of these 3.
So I'll give you an example of one. Stable Cover was a black pip card, and the secret action, they had like a big blue text box inside the main box with a question mark that explained the rules of secret actions. So like it was very clear this is a secret action. Like it was nicely done. It's very clear. And what Stable Cover did was you reveal it when one of your character defends. So any defense. And when it's revealed, that character gets +1 defense for the battle, and the attacker can't use Pierce.
Oh.
So this was an anti-Pierce card. And you just play it, and like it happens, and your opponent doesn't know. So you can play a bunch of other things, and they're not prepared for Stable Cover. Yeah, that's secret actions. They also introduced a new game action, which was tapping, the little tap icon.
Oh, okay. A non-attack tap ability.
Yeah, so MicroMasters were 4-cost characters. They were very cheap, very weak stats. So what they had is they had a little tap ability. Tap them to do something. Like give another bonus to a character or something like that. For example, here's one. Tote was tap, scrap a black card from your hand, untap one of your characters that has 6 stars or fewer. So he got to untap people.
So you got discard a black card to untap another
Yeah.
small creature.
Yeah, he was a little Micromaster. He only cost stars. He was a 2/5/1.
Yeah, the stars thing is kind of interesting as an additional
Yeah.
knob. You could say power 3 or greater. You could say toughness 3 or greater. But you could also say stars 3 or greater. And that's more likely to tightly identify a kind of card that you're targeting.
Yeah.
Because you could have a 6-mana 1/1 in Magic that has an incredible ability, but you can't target it with anything that kills incredible things because it's not incredible.
No, but you could be referring to the mana value of cards.
I guess that's true. Yeah, you could, and sometimes we do. Sometimes, mana value people.
Yeah, exactly. That was the problem they discovered with Revelark, right? Because it referred to power and it should have referred to mana value. Because by referring to power, you got really powerful cards back when it was supposed to only get.
You could get a 6-mana card.
Yeah.
Back. Yeah.
So that's what this does. They learned that lesson, right? And so people decided this. They learned that lesson.
Yeah, I think it's like more natural to refer to power and toughness, but maybe mana value is just the way of saying a card of this quality.
Exactly.
I don't know.
So the tapping is a game action that you can do before you attack.
Wait. Do you do that instead of attacking with that guy?
No. Oh. So that guy won't get to attack. If you tap, he won't be able to attack. But he can now be attacked, right? He's tapped.
Oh, he can still be attacked. Yeah. Yep. That makes sense. Yeah.
So you give up one of your attacks, basically. But these guys are so weak. He's only got 2 attack anyway. Like he's not gonna. He's a 4 cost. He's not gonna do much. So he's more of a utility character. The other thing they introduced here were Battle Masters. These were started in robot form and they couldn't transform. When they got knocked out, they would then transform into a gun or an armor or a utility, and you would attach them to one of your other Transformers.
Oh, okay. So the characters that can't transform, but have like die into a piece of equipment. What were Battle Masters and Transformers? Were these like a set of characters?
Yeah, so there were. I mean, when I was growing up, they were called Trigger Masters. What there was is you'd get like a robot, and they would have a gun, and the gun could turn into a robot.
Oh, okay.
That's what these are, right? The guns that turned into robots. So you get Blowpipe and all these characters. Yeah. These also had a really nice turn 1 solution, because on turn 1 you want to attack with Battle Master because you want them knocked out first.
Yeah. You want to get it's going to do stuff. It's going to scrap a little bit. It's going to absorb some damage.
But you throw it in. It does some damage. Your opponent attacks it back. They knock it out. Cool. You've got a cool gun. You buff up a guy. Yeah. Now they go and attack on your second turn and they shoot someone.
How big is the buff on that? What kind of thing would you get out of a Battle Master?
Let me find one for you. So here's an example of one. I think this this is the right one. His Nightstick. He's 2/6/1 and he is 6 stars. And he turns into a weapon, the Black Beam Blaster. He gives +2 attack, +1 defense. And when the upgraded character attacks and you flip at least 2 black icons, your opponent chooses a card from their hand and scraps it. And then if this would leave the battlefield, it's KO'd instead. That's a very good weapon.
Okay. Yeah.
Like +2 and +1 is...
2 power does seem like a decent amount of power.
Normally upgrades aren't that strong.
And black was... What was black
Pierce.
again? Black Pit? Pierce. Oh.
I forgot a little thing they added, but in Wave 2. They added something else, which was battle cards that have a star value to them. So if you have 1 or 2 extra stars, you could put these extra cards in your deck. And
4 damage lightning bolt.
Yeah, so these were... It wasn't so much that. It was more this does lightning bolt, but it has really good battle icons. You got both. So either you got really powerful cards or really powerful battle icons that were so good they required a star, or you got the best of both worlds. You got good battle icons on a good card. Boom. But you had to draw into them, obviously, or flip into them. But so there was a number of little ways you could fill out those extra stars to hit 25.
Alrighty. Is that it for Cybertron?
There's just 2 keywords. Revenge, which was like, when this dies, you trigger the ability when it dies. That's it. So like Revenge, draw a card. When it dies, draw a card. Sure. And Focus. So Focus 1 was, before flipping battle cards, look at the top card of your deck. You can scrap it. So Surveil.
Okay. Yeah. So one thing that I thought about here is, so I start with 3 cards. I draw a card every regular turn, right? I'm typically just like playing 1 to 2 cards and drawing a card, playing 1 to 2 cards and drawing it. So I am kind of depleting my hand.
Yes, you are. Yeah,
result.
you will run out of cards in this game.
It's not one of those games where you typically have like a fairly fresh hand. You are. It's like Magic. You are running low on resources.
Yeah, you will run out. Yeah.
Okay.
Wave 4 was Part 2, Siege Part 2. That came out around Throne of Eldraine. That had 52 characters, 64 battle cards. They started doing a very cool thing here, which was if you bought a booster box, you got a giant city transformed with it, like Metroplex. So in this case, you got the Decepticon version, which was Triptychon. Which was a really nice way of doing this, by the way, because you couldn't put these guys in boosters because they're too big.
The card's too big, yeah.
Metroplex had its own starter, so you didn't want to have to make a starter pack for every one of these. And by making it a booster box, instead of buy a card box promo, you got a Triptychon card in the box. It was really nice to
Yeah, there's like enough of them circulating around. Yeah. They're not like free, but they're also like relatively accessible.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Okay.
Another cool thing about this was because it was tied to the toy line, it debuted something new for the IP, which was a third faction, which were mercenaries. Up until this point, it was Autobots, Decepticons, and that's it. And now, suddenly, there's a third group. And it was in this set that they got debuted. And then, of course, the toys came out and they had... So they planned it all, but it was kind of nice that the game got to debut it.
That's cool, yeah.
Mercenaries had a new mechanic, Bounty. And all Bounty was when this does enough attack damage to KO an enemy, you play their Bounty ability. So that it could be Bounty, draw a card. So when this KOs someone, draw a card. The other keyword they did, and that's all that they added for this set, was a really interesting solution to a development problem. So you remember how you asked how quickly can you knock some aggro decks were really powerful. You could make a deck of nothing but orange pips, lots of bold and white, and you could knock out people on turn 1, just straight away, first turn. Grimlock had like a trample ability that meant excess damage would carry over to another character. So you could go Grimlock, play a card, give him bold, he has bold, boom, 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 and knock out a character and do a bunch of damage to a second one, turn 1. So they had to deal with that because that was a very strong tournament strategy. And they created a keyword called Safeguard. And Safeguard 3 was the one that debuted with that number. And what it meant was it can't take more than 3 damage while it's undamaged. So as soon as it's taken damage, so if you ping it for 1, the Safeguard is gone. But it meant that the opening attack, your opponent knew they can't KO your Safeguard character on turn 1. Which was really nice. And the last set was Titan Masters Attack, which came out, got delayed a month because of COVID. It came out around Ikoria, which was also delayed.
Yeah.
46 characters, 64 battle cards again. So that was their set size. Fortress Maximus was the city card. They had a special exclusive as well, which was World Champion got to design Perceptor. He got to design a card and he designed Perceptor. And of course, he gave it a fact or fiction ability because literally it's fact or fiction. Like what it turns into a microscope Perceptor.
Tournament player is going to design blue cards.
He's going to design a blue card. It reminds me of this gag Aaron Forsyth said about a lot of the invitational cards where tap, draw 3 cards if you're better at Magic than your opponent. It's like they had all these weird things. They introduced something that... so obviously, because it's me, I was making custom sets for this. And one of the things I noticed was they had a problem in that they couldn't make any more double orange cards or double blue cards or orange blue cards because every deck...
Oh, because the density was too high.
Yeah, so they had, I think, 2 or 3 of each, and it was like, we can't make any more. It will break the game. And so, obviously, with rotation, you could rotate cards and put new ones in. But we didn't get to that point.
It didn't live long.
So I came up with a mechanic that solved this, and this mechanic then came in this set, and I realized they had this mechanic in place from the beginning. And they just they were waiting to debut it. The mechanic is battle icons that are trait specific. So it's a blue pip, but only for planes.
Oh, for airplanes. I was thinking magic planes like
No,
PLAIN.
only for airplanes. Or it's a red pip, but only for cars.
Uh, so they can look at the existing aggro cars, the existing defender cars, and they can decide, okay, I noticed the tanks are the ones that that want blue cards really bad.
Yeah.
We're not going to give the conditional blue card to them.
Yeah. Sometimes that would mean you'd have a card that basically, if it's flipped for a character who doesn't have the trait, they don't get anything because it's like one blue plain pip. You get nothing for it. Sometimes it might be, okay, it's 2 black pips and one of them is plains only. Anyone will get 1 black, but this gets 2 black. Or sometimes you would have something where it's like, okay, orange for melee, it's blue for ranged, and then it's white for specialist. And what that means is like, okay, this is going to change because every character only has one of those 3 traits. They don't have all 3. It's going to change depending on who flips it.
Oh, okay.
And then you could also get the thing of like melee, car, leader, and like, okay, if I can get a character who has all 3 of those traits, this is incredible on that character.
Yeah. If it's a human, it gets this. If it's an elf, it gets this. If it's a wizard, it gets this. If you have a half-elf wizard, then it gets all 3.
Exactly.
I feel like you could do more of that. That'd be a good limited thing to do. I guess auras aren't that good, but something like that.
Yeah. I think it could be fun to have some sort of like batching type of thing.
Yeah.
Or like in the mana cost, maybe do a thing where it's like, look, this costs less if you have this creature type or something. But for this game, it's when they finally released that, I was like, I can't believe that they didn't have that and a couple of other mechanics still to debut that they knew from the beginning were part of the game, but they just waited to drop them.
Yeah, secrets were the thing, or were they called secret actions in this? That was the thing that was like, that's a shoe-in. You're going to do that eventually.
These trait icons so solve a development issue so completely.
And I guess it's good to save that until later, because now you have a more complete understanding of how the meta is shaking.
Exactly, yeah. It's like we can see how best to use these. The other thing that they put in this were headmasters or titan masters, they're called.
Wait, so a titan is already a huge robot,
yeah,
right?
and so I guess the brand changed these guys from headmasters to titan masters. The idea of it is this is a transformer whose head pops off and becomes another little robot.
Oh,
right. And
that name Headmaster is like a toy in the 80s when it totally made sense. Yeah.
The way the cards work is the bot mode is illustrated in such a way that it has no head. The head is cut off at the top, and the head,
and then you kind of connect it up.
You connect them up so you can change the heads around, which is cute,
beautiful,
and it allowed you to customize your headmasters because they would have a cost, and so would the heads, so you could switch them around, and the heads would give bonuses like tough 2 or safeguard 3, and so you could customize them to a degree.
Oh, okay, I like this.
And the play pattern of them was fun because when the headmaster got taken down, the head would then turn into a robot. And it was like this last-ditch Hail Mary pass. Like you have this one little dude who's just shut up and like, you've tapped out, my little guy's ready. It would mess up sequencing, and then in they come. So there was an interesting little thing. They'd only get 1 hit because they were so weak, and then they'd be gone. But it was like this one last, like maybe my little head guy. Bam.
Yeah, it's kind of nice in a world that kind of encourages you to focus down one robot. That when you do focus down that robot, your opponent, that strategy isn't perfect because they will get part of their investment back right then. Yeah. That's cool. Headmaster.
And also it's fun because they kind of, I think it was around the 3rd set, they started realizing that they stopped doing vanilla Transformers. They had some, and they realized that players just don't want them. They want Transformers to have abilities and be really unique, and so they upped the complexity on the Transformers, but not to the extent of Commander. But it's definitely a thing they realized. At first, they thought, we're going to have a very low complexity robots, but they realized people actually wanted them. So I wonder if it's like it's not about the amount of complexity, but the kind of complexity.
Yeah, you need some hooks to inspire
Exactly.
you.
So it's like the card probably needs to be something that you very easily know what it does. So the comprehension complexity has to be really low. You read a card, you know what it does. That's it. The last thing that they added in Wave 5
It's the last thing I'm willing to learn.
It's
So
the last
make it
thing
good.
to, and I saved it because this is something that when I played with it, I went,
Yeah.
this is something Magic should have.
Okay.
They introduced a new card type called stratagems.
All right.
And stratagems were cards that started in play. They cost stars, so 1 or 2 stars, and they let you customize certain Transformers. For example, there was one called Orbital Strike, 1 star, and it gave Cosmos a new ability. So it replaced the text on the card from 12 stars or fewer to 21 stars or fewer. In other words, Cosmos could only hit people with 12 stars or fewer. Now he can hit almost anyone. So it made him a lot more powerful. Certain characters that people loved, like Cup, were vanillas in the original set. So they gave Cup a stratagem that gives him abilities.
Yeah.
And what I discovered about that was not only did it let you customize certain robots and whatever, but what was so cool about it was they could have just made another Cup that was just better than the old Cup. They didn't. They released a little card that that kind of patched him, right? And I sat there and I went, Magic wants this. I don't want to play a new Jasmine Boreal. I want the old crappy card because that's the card I fell in love with when I was 15, right? Like, there's loads of people that have stupid old cards with weird art, weird templating, weird artifacts of that time.
Yeah.
And rather than making the cool new version of that card that's way better and more effective and all that, release a little card that buffs it that you can start with in the command zone. Just let it be like, if your commander is this useless legend, right? You get this bonus. Let Torwalkie live.
That's funny.
Right? Like I actually feel like there's something there because the old cards meant something. These little things would let people take old cards out of their binders and put them into decks in a way that a new card just doesn't do.
Yeah, I think you would lose something once you make your 5th Bumblebee.
Yeah.
That I don't know. There are how many Saurians? There are how many Chandras? They blend together a little too much.
Right. And not only that, like, there's so many cards that just missed. They just weren't powerful enough. They just, like Kataki's War's Wage, that kind of thing, right? They just missed their shot at being good and being useful.
Yeah, I'm thinking through a lot of variations here. One of the things is like Magic has like 30,000 cards or whatever, so picking the 20 that you want to patch seems daunting because I don't know what's the canon of Magic cards. What are the ones that were the crappy cards, but that are still good, that are still famous, that people would want?
I mean, just imagine being allowed to have as many Plague Rats in your deck as you want.
Like in general?
Well, Plague Rats doesn't have the Relentless Rats ability on it.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. Plague Rats, the original.
Yeah, they don't have that ability. You can only have 4 in your deck.
Yeah, you can only have 4.
So I'd love a little card that just said, hey, you can have as many as you want.
Okay. Something command zone-y, something rule setting, or maybe not command zone-y all the time.
Maybe not.
Something that's a little more targeted to specific cards.
Yeah.
I think that, I've been pretty happy with the idea that we should have more cards that name other cards by name.
Yeah.
There was a card in one of the core sets in core set 2021, Alpine Houndmaster. When it enters, you can search your library for a card named Alpine Watchdog and or a card named Igneous Cur, reveal them, put them in your hand, and then shuffle. When it attacks, blah, 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 blah. And Alpine Watchdog and Igneous Cur are just 2 commons.
Yeah.
But the delight level of that card punched way above its power level. Just that you're going to have the Houndmaster and grab your 2 dogs, your happy dog and on fire dog, and you're going to have a good time.
Well, there was the witch that had the cauldron and the salamander and everything. You have partner with.
Yeah.
Magic has shied away from it because it's a nightmare for draft.
Yeah.
But with commander decks that we get now, there is actually an avenue for cards that specifically reference certain cards because they will be in those decks.
Yeah. I definitely see the potential in that.
Yeah.
That's bringing the frame into something I can understand.
And they like doing lots of reprint sets. They love doing lots of nostalgia. I mean, a Commander Master set or something like that, where these kind of cards are put in the boosters, and in the way you get conspiracies, you draft start with a conspiracy in play. Like the idea of like you could draft these old cards that aren't good, but you have this thing that can make them good, and then players can get those cards for their decks.
Okay. This is a little bit like how conspiracies worked,
Yeah.
where one of the strategies they would talk about with conspiracy is that you draft 5 of the same worst red creature in the set.
Yeah.
And then you'd have 2 conspiracies stacked on top of it that made it like a overperformer.
Yeah.
We want to reprint cards, but have them still have some sort of dream aspect to them. You know, vanilla or French vanilla is not an appealing card, but if I'm getting my Alpine Watchdog, which is just a vigilance common, if I'm getting that with another card, it feels fun. It feels exciting. Like I've really enlivened that card. Yeah.
You know, Commander began because people loved a bunch of really old, bad legends.
Yeah.
And I think it would be really appealing to be able to bring out the old Nicol Bolas, the one with the upkeep cost, and have like a stratagem that says, hey, you don't need to pay the upkeep cost anymore.
Yeah, and like you can attach this into some other card that you're putting in your deck for some other reason, right? Like they use this tech a little bit when they do like dual deck planeswalkers. So there would be like a random creature in the Oko deck that would say, when this deals damage to your opponent, you may search your library for Oko, Trickiest Trickster, and put it into from your library or graveyard. So that you always had a chance of casting, you know, your face card.
Exactly, yeah. You see, when the set came out and they showed these stratagems, I was really dead set against it. I thought, this is terrible. I don't want to do this. This is just stupid. I have to track down these super rares or something to be able to play that. No, I hate this. These are all dead cards. And then they came out, I played with them, and I went, I'm getting the crappy old commons that I never played and putting them into decks. And like, I'm never going to play Cup without the stratagem. But now I'm going to play Cup with it.
Instead of just never playing. Let's say there's I just got to pick on like a, a formerly classic legend, kind of like you are. Rhea Dawnbringer, who was like an old legendary angel. I don't think you'd play this as your commander, but let's just say hypothetically you put this in a draft format or whatever else. And then you also have a sword that is a normal equipment that has whatever abilities it has, but it also has equip Rhea Dawnbringer 0.
Yeah.
You could play this sword with other creatures and it works with other creatures, but it names a specific card, a single specific other card. I think that creates like an attachment. Like even if it's in my commander deck and there's 98 other cards in that deck and I might not draw it, when I draw it, I'm like, this one's for me. This is mine.
Yeah.
I guess it's a little bit like meld in that way. Like I need both meld pieces to combine to make a cool thing.
Yeah.
But this is more of an open-ended meld.
I think it's something that Magic can do now because Commander has that. I get to pick who my commander is. I can actually pick that I only have to draw one half of the combo.
Yeah.
I just remembered back when I was on Twitter and this came out, I came up with a bunch of examples and I've just found them.
Yeah, get those to me. We'll put them in the show notes or something.
There's one for Amara Tundris. Do you remember Amara Tundris?
Was that the expensive Amara?
Yeah, there was Amara Tundris came out in a Ravnica set. She was like a 5/7, did nothing, and people were really upset with her.
Yeah.
And the Voice of Resurgence was originally going to be Ramara, and that was the...
Yeah, they swapped.
Yeah, so I made a stratagem for her, and it was Amara Resurgent, and it basically turned into Voice of Wilderness, right?
Sure, yeah.
I made one for Jedit Ojanen, and it was, if it's Jedit Ojanen, the original Jedit Ojanen.
You really love Legends, don't you?
Yeah, but that's why I used to play, right? If Jedit Ojanen was your commander, you can include any lands and any cats of any color. So he just makes sure you don't need to make a new version that's multicolored. Like, just let people play whatever cats they want with Jedit. Uncle Istvan is now a commander, right? He's now legendary, and he can be a commander.
Seems cool. Maybe I think when people listen to this, I want to also know the downside. Why are we not doing this? Because I think that discussion is going to help, help us find the right kinds of cards to do this with. Because I don't think you want to do it with every kind of card. No. What are the kind of cards? I want to learn.
That's fair.
Well, because it's a cool idea and it's got a lot of potential.
You're right. Yeah, it's got a lot of potential, but there's certain doors you don't want to open.
Like if they did these stratagems in the first set, it would feel too prescriptive. If you're ever playing Cup, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
If you're ever playing Cup, there's no reason you'd ever not play this for the entire lifetime of this card. Instead of the cool experience, which was Cup fell out of favor and then got revitalized. Like that was more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty, yeah. So that's it for our learning portion of the podcast. I guess we learned all about Transformers.
Yeah.
We're going to have 3 battle cards to start with. We're going to draw down. We've got multiple creatures on the battlefield at the same time. This is something I want to crack. I was thinking while you were talking about the Transformer setup, what Magic format can we start creatures in play?
I guess you could use mana value in the same way that the game uses stars.
Okay. Yep.
You could have it instead of creatures. You could start with planeswalkers and use their loyalty as the starting cost thing. Like you could do it with that maybe because planeswalkers they can't attack in the same way. Well, some can, but they're very complex.
Well, what I'm trying to port over is the hot action that this Transformer game promises, where from the very beginning you're swinging with your absolute largest creature.
Yeah,
and then it like crescendos a little bit, and then everyone dies off. I want to feel that in Magic somehow. How do we make that happen?
I think how would you do that? I think you'd have to start the game in a sort of mid. See, here's where it gets interesting. Where it gets difficult. Because if you say, okay, you can start with whatever you want, even if you say, okay, you have 10 mana to spend on your starting creature, so you could start with a 10 mana creature, you could start with 10 ones, and obviously you can't use 0 costs, right? Because that would be broken. I'll have an infinite number of midnights, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is then why wouldn't I just use all the colors? What stops me from picking the best color?
So maybe if I get 10 stars, we're going to call them stars.
Okay.
I get 10 stars. Mana value costs a star, and each individual color costs a star. So if I want to be 5 colors, I only get 5 mana worth of creature. If I want to be 1 color, I get 9 mana worth of creature.
Yep. You could do it that way. That could work. Haste doesn't work anymore.
Oh. Well, if I have haste, so maybe you're summoning sick the first turn? That's a good point.
Okay, you could do it that way, yeah. So on turn 1, can I just attack you?
If you have haste?
I mean, if I have haste, I can attack you. Otherwise, I can't. And on your turn, you can't attack. Do we start with extra lands, or do we start? Because if we're only starting with like turn 1,
that's a good question.
Then the weaker cards are going to be outclassed very, very quickly.
If there's hot action on the battlefield immediately, but then it's going to take a long time for me to get 5 mana to cast a spell, maybe that's a problem.
How about we try something a bit weirder? Okay. How about when you go to attack, why don't we steal the Transformer thing of flipping cards off the top of your deck? But you're using the mana costs to pay for the creatures to attack.
Okay.
So if you flip over a card that, say, costs 2 colorless, 2 black, you basically have 2 colorless and 2 black mana to spend on your creatures, and you have to pay their mana cost to attack with them.
Okay, so the creatures that I'm allowed to attack with are fluctuating turn by turn.
Exactly. And that way, if you have a really big creature, it's going to be very hard to attack with, because you can still pay mana. Like you don't pay mana, but it's like you need enough mana to attack with the big creature. Otherwise, you can't attack with it.
Yeah.
So, like, if you start with a 10 mana creature, you can make your library nothing but 10 mana cards that can do it, but you won't be able to play anything else, hard to cast. Right?
Yeah.
And your opponent will have their removal spell. So maybe that's the balancing thing. You start with like a certain mana value total of creatures in play, and you can do that thing of, and then actually we don't have to worry about colors because your deck is rewarding you to play monocolor.
Yeah.
So
if you want to play big creatures, you have to play big spells.
Yeah, they're eligible to attack now. They have to be the right colors. That could be the way of doing it.
There's something in there that makes sense. Yeah.
If you run out of cards, you just reshuffle.
Maybe it's the pips are what you're paying with. Like if it's 2 black, 4 mana, you can attack with 2 black pips worth of black creatures.
Oh, you could do it that way.
So then, like higher pipped cards have this other value to them, where it allows you to attack with more things.
Wouldn't that break big colorless creatures?
Yeah, I guess I hadn't really thought about colorless creatures.
I hadn't thought about them until you were going, oh, I can have, if I have 2 black, I can attack with any 2 black creatures. But then it's like, oh, hold on a minute.
There's no colorless creatures in my format now. They don't exist.
But that, and of course you could do the same for the defender. They can't block. They have to flip to block. So
Okay.
so it reward. So yeah, that would make sense because you want to play the big creatures that can attack and block and are strong.
Yeah, we're trying to encourage hanging out in the middle,
Yeah,
but we're providing an out that you might be able to use the extremes.
yeah,
Like if I want to attack with 4 black creatures, I need 4 pips worth of stuff, which is hard to do.
yeah, and
Um,
and
yeah.
also it means that your opponent won't necessarily be able to block them, and so they can't trade with them.
Mm,
Because that would be very
okay.
frustrating if on turn one to your opponent, like you've put down like these incredible creatures your opponent has. It's like I attack, I block, and they all
Mm,
go. What was the
mm.
what was the point, right? You want to be able to have
Yeah,
some
yeah,
variance, I guess. So that could
yeah.
maybe be something.
I guess what qualities of creatures make for good hot action creatures? Because like clearly there's some combination of 9 mana worth of creatures that will just win you the game the first time you on turn 2.
Yeah, yeah, there's going to be broken combos, isn't
Splinter Twin
you're going to
and,
have also you're going to have real
whatever
problem with
else.
creatures that don't care about attacking and blocking. That just have triggers.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out, like, because in Transformers, they didn't really introduce that kind of creature until, what was it, the 4th set?
Yeah,
The little baby guys? Yeah.
and you can just attack them, right? There is something about not having dead cards in your deck that is very appealing.
Hmm,
There is a version of the Transformers game that could have been made where you
okay.
have action cards, upgrade cards, and then battle icon cards. And so you would flip into cards that don't have any battle icons at all. And the cards that have battle icons don't do anything when they're in your hand. In the way that you have lands and spells, you have pips and non pip cards. But you have to put those cards in because otherwise you have nothing. Pardon me, you have nothing to play on your turn.
Mhm.
And there's a part of me that looks at Magic and goes, "Is there something we could do
Yeah.
so that you don't have those boring dead draws?"
I think that's the thing that, like, Transformers took away some of the variance by not having lands
Yeah,
and reintroduced some variance of, like, when you attack, you don't quite know what will
yeah.
happen.
GI Joe took it one step further because every card in that has three. It works in three different.
I've played some board games that are like that too, and sometimes if you're playing a board game for the first time, that's definitely a cost in comprehending a card.
I think the way GI Joe does it and the way Transformers does it, because you don't
Yeah.
need to read the abilities. It's like the
Mm.
battle pips are just colors. There's no game text. You kind of get it very quickly, but I agree. In some board games, that's not the case. In some board games, it's more like MDFCs in Magic.
Yeah, one of the things that's kind of interesting about lands is like, I think especially in limited, drawing lands late game is just like really, really, really blank.
Yeah,
But I think one thing that I've seen in kind of Commander is like it's kind of hard to draw too many lands in Commander because every 2 lands you draw is another cast of your Commander. Like it has a reliable thing you can do once you have excess lands.
but that's a good point. That is true.
If we can find a way to bring that into other kinds of Magic, maybe that's valuable.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, yeah,
I guess maybe that's part of what Retrace was doing. I'm gonna and that's not an exciting mechanic. Came up twice in
yeah,
this episode somehow, but
yeah,
when you're talking about the pips that you need to attack and block with, maybe you include lands with those, even though those don't technically have pips in their upper right corner.
yeah. I wonder
Um,
if there's like maybe a way of
yeah,
like, oh, lands come into play with clue tokens. You know?
yeah. If the lands past a certain number of lands, yeah.
Yeah, something
If
like
you
that.
play this land and you control at least 7 other lands,
Get a clue.
gain 3 land. Yeah,
Yeah, little bonuses that maybe are more interesting.
yeah,
There's something really nice about. Okay, I'm going to build my deck. It's just creatures. I don't
yeah,
have to
yeah.
put in other weird cards.
Yeah, I've wanted DFCs with like basically vanillas and French vanillas on the back, which I don't think are like pack sellers.
No,
But if we had like 10 common creatures that are all like a tap land on the back, that seems kind of nice to me.
I agree.
You can use
It's not a
you
seller,
can
is it?
use creature type. You can use other stuff
Yeah.
to try to bring those into relevance. Like if it's a zombie warrior, well now this set also cares about zombies and warriors. So even though it's an unexciting creature, it has a place and also it helps with your mana base.
Yeah, I mean, landfall is another thing where,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
flipped a land. Cool. I play it, I get a bonus.
Good.
Problem with landfall is the landfall card is interesting, not the land.
miracleable lands that do something. I don't know.
Maybe. I realized after playing Transformers for a bit why Clash doesn't really work in Magic. There's no intrinsic rules for what happens if you flip the top card of your deck.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to make a mechanic that cares about flipping the top cards of everyone's deck, because then you have to specify where those cards go, and that becomes part of the ability of the mechanic.
Yeah, if Clash lets you just dump 5 cards in your graveyard, then that's why you're playing it. Yeah.
Exactly. Parlay is another one, and so on. Like you have, like so much of the mechanic has to be built around what you do with the card that you looked at, that there's very little for the card to actually do anything else and to care about anything else.
We need something that doesn't encourage people to like land destruction themselves by like using their 4th land to do a thing,
Right.
so that they can't actually cast any of their spells. We need something that's doesn't kick in right away.
Maybe creatures that when they attack, they flip a card off the top of your deck, and so that mechanic specifies. But again, you just had that problem of, okay, what do you do with the flip cards? Do you put them back on the bottom? Cascade is kind of, and Discover are kind of the closest, I think, ones that work. So maybe there's something there.
Yeah, I guess maybe the convention, if you're ripping through a bunch of cards, maybe we should expect that you're probably putting them on the bottom afterward.
Yeah.
So as long as we're not fighting against that convention, then we're maybe in a good spot.
That could be a fun thing, especially if they start putting like the keyword icons on cards. Like the idea of like a creature that goes, when this attacks, you flip the top card of your deck. And so like say there's a keyword that's like Cascade Blitzers or something, right?
Yeah.
Everyone who has Cascade Blitz on their thing, they'll flip a card. So you flip all of them and then you check all the cards. So the more of them you attack with cards you flip, and the more likely they are to go off. And it would be like, hey, if you saw a flying icon, I get flying. If you saw a first strike icon, I get first strike. I get +1/+0. I get +2/+1 or -1, or like they can. You know, you could actually have. You could use the traits that are on the card as the equivalent of battle pips, so that when you attack, the idea is you're banking on flipping enough cards to get a bunch of really cool abilities.
Yeah, that is fun. Yeah, I
fun.
remember like it was only a one set, but I was a huge fan of the Blood Rush thing for Gruul, where you'd either play the creature or discard the creature to be a combat trick of the same qualities of the creature.
Yeah.
So if it was like a 3/1 trample, you could Blood Rush it to give +3/+1 and trample.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Something like that, but apply it to other card types or other things like that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you could have you could have something that says, "Hey, for every bird you flipped, get a bonus." But you could also maybe put it on the cards that get flipped as well. Hey, when I'm flipped, I give a bonus.
Okay.
But I guess it's one of those things where people don't really have those big boards. You have board wipes, and maybe not. But there could be something fun in the idea of you don't know when you're attacking, you don't exactly know.
I was thinking like when attacker is blocked, that's maybe a cool time to insert some sort of flip in keeping with Transformers here, where it's not until the attack actually hits that we find out how good that attack was.
Maybe this would be a cool mechanic to represent like dueling.
Yeah.
Where like you have like a samurai type character, and it's like I can pick someone to duel, and so when we fight, it involves like mana values and how you've built your deck to see which one of us does what, as opposed to in combat where it could have trample and it means you just knock out your opponent because you got so much damage.
Because I think like when an attacker isn't blocked, that's not the time where we want to be like just adding on a ton of damage. That kind of pushes aggression a little too high. But if it's a creature attacks and is blocked, we take randomness from elsewhere in Magic and insert it here.
Yeah.
We take lands away, or we simplify lands, we make lands more reliable, and we add them into what happens when attackers are blocked.
See, now that's interesting, because if you did a format and you got rid of lands, the idea is you flipped off the top of your deck, and that was how you got mana for the turn. The card's colors becomes the mana.
Yeah.
So every card in your deck becomes a land, but you're not guaranteed to build your resources over time. You don't know what you're going to get every turn. Maybe like you're saying if we take. I like the way of thinking. If we're taking out the variance here, We have to put it in somewhere else.
And we can put it in a way that's new and fun
Yeah.
and maybe less frustrating. We can do all those things, but we don't want to totally, like, if every card in Magic was also a DFC of its colors or whatever, like, that would just reduce the variance. That would just make decks more consistent, which maybe we don't want to do.
Your thinking has made me think that because Transformers is meant to be, has a cap of like 6 is the outlier, right? It's really somewhere between 3 and 4, 5 maybe.
Creatures, yeah.
But Magic isn't like that. Magic, you can have loads of creatures.
Mm-hmm.
It occurs to me that your mind is going in the direction that probably is going to sync more with the G.I. Joe CCG. And I think that's a good way for us to segue into that another time, because
all right. Yeah, we got the teaser at the end of the episode. That's crucial.
You grew up with G.I. Joe, not Transformers, and I think the way you've been talking about putting this into the game, just that last bit now, what you're talking about, I'm like, I think Transformers G.I. Joe is really up your alley, and it's even simpler with even fewer things to talk about, so you can really let your mind go off on that one.
All right. Well, look forward to that. Before we get out of here, got a couple things to tell people about.
Yeah.
Our main one is our design challenge for December. We do a design challenge every month. If you're listening to the podcast for the first time, you want to get involved, you want us to read your cards. It can be intimidating. Do I have to make a whole set? Do I have to be really good at this? No, with the design challenge, just listen to the challenge and just give us any card that occurs to you off of that. We love reading all kinds of cards. And our challenge for December is called Advent Sentinel, or Advent Sentinel. Design a card that cares about Defender, but doesn't cause all defenders to attack. A common thing with Defender now, Arcades or whatever, is to say, hey, creatures lose Defender or can attack as they don't have Defender. They deal damage equal to their toughness instead of their power. That's cool, and those decks are cool. We want something a little bit different for this challenge. Give us some other way to make a cool Defender deck. You're going to set your shields up. You got all your blue flip cards from Transformers here.
Yeah, my Defender Matters card that popped to my head was you get is at the end of your turn you basically catapult things over your walls. So you do damage depending on for every wall you control, do 1 damage to anything.
A creature that's really easy to kill unless you have some walls, so that you can safely protect your little guy. I like this.
As soon as you said Defender Matters, but you can't make wall attack, I thought, that's actually smart. I like that. That's nice.
Alrighty, we're gonna crush that orc from Lord of the Rings with that big boulder. We also throw in some bonus points for people if you want. If that's not complicated enough, we've got some more ones for you. One of them is Advent Children. The card has Offspring, that new mechanic from Bloom Burrows. So this one creature enters and it can make an offspring that's a 1/1 copy of itself. And then our other one is Advent Calendar. Christmas season, Advent. Rewards something each turn cycle or each turn. So something that's ticking away, cares about defenders in some way. Combine all this together. I don't know what we're going to get for this, but I'm looking forward to finding out. And that's going to be due December 27th.
Nice.
All right. I think if you're good, I'm good. This is the end of the podcast.
I'm good.
We'll have you back at some point to talk G.I. Joe.
Real American.
Until then. So you even know the American slogan.
Cool. I had to fight not to say international hero.
Is that what for Action Force?
That's right.
That's the all right. We'll make Action Force sleeves for your G.I. Joe cards. Then you'll feel at peace.
I will.
Hop on the Discord to submit design challenge, follow all the episodes. We're just finishing up a You Make the Pack, so we're probably not that far away from another one. Jump in for Popcorn, our kind of like an active challenge that we got going. And most of all, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. It was great. It was really nice.
Before we get out of here, do you want to plug anything? It could be stuff you're doing or just stuff that you're into. No, I've taken enough of your time. Things fine. Oh no, we beat the plug out of him. If you need to contact me, I'm on Discord. Tim F. Riley. They need to find you.
I don't want people to find me. I'm done. I left Twitter. I'm on Threads or Blue Sky, but I don't use them.
You need to whisper in the ear of a swallow, and it will reach you.
Yeah, or a goose.
There we go. Yeah. Talk to Wobbles with your questions for him.
There it is. Yeah, just go straight to him.
All right. I love it. Honk, honk. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you.